Today we'll be looking at a 9th generation Honda Civic Si. Don't forget to check the video description. I'll have links to everything that I'm using, and if you want to go to different sections of the tune-up, you can click on the links in there as well. All right, now it's time to jack the vehicle up, and we're going to get the vehicle pretty high because we need to do a lot of work underneath it. So we're going to use a Daytona 3-ton low-profile long-reach jack. This thing is great, gets under low cars, and raises pretty high. So here's the lever to pop the hood. Make sure your emergency brake is on and your manual transmission is in A gear. Right above the Honda symbol in the front, you'll find a latch to open the hood. Make sure to secure it with the bar. And in front of the engine and between the front, if you look down and you use a nice light, you'll see an arrow. And it's not at the edge of the arrow, but you see the gap and then there's a metal piece or metal bar. That's where we'll be jacking the vehicle up in the front. So let's get on the ground so I can show you, but I like to use the Magic Creeper. It's a slidey sort of pad. It makes it easy to move around on the ground when you haven't put the vehicle up on jack stands yet. And so here is the jacking point underneath the front of the car. I'll back out just so you can get some perspective here. And we zoom in. You see how it kind of has like a hump and it has some holes in it. And there's me pointing at it with my Braun mechanic light. That's where we're going to jack the car up in the front. And so we're just going to slide the Daytona in. And you kind of have to eyeball it. It's never straightforward on positioning with jacks. But you just sort of eyeball it and try to match it up so it's underneath the jacking point. And the great thing about this jack is it has foot pedals. And if you're strong enough, you can just sort of push down on it and you can raise it up so it's in the perfect position for jacking up your car. I really like that about this Daytona jack. There's tons of other brands out there that do the same thing. So you're going to put your jack stands behind the wheels, and those are the notches or the jacking points. And put both of them on either side and make sure to chock your wheels. So you've chocked your wheels, emergency brake is on, and the manual transmission car is in a gear. You can use your foot to try to get the vehicle up as far as you can with the pedal, but then you're going to have to yank on the bar at some point. You see how I've angled my US jack underneath those notches, the jacking points, to be sort of above the valley of the jack. And you see the back is already really low, so we're just going to get the front of the car on the jack stand. No notches, just on the jack stands. And we're going to lower it nice and slow. Whenever we do this, we always check the jacks visually, make sure that they're in the valleys, and we shake. We shake the car, make sure that it's stationary, it doesn't move. It needs to sit nicely. Jack there, line it up. You can use the foot pedal on your jack. And then again, put your jack stands in the proper location. And then we jack the vehicle up. Ideally, you have the garage door open if you're working in the garage there. And slide your jack stand in. Again, we're sort of angling it to be right underneath those notches into the valley of the US jacks. And then you lower it. And again, whenever we do this, we always shake the vehicle, okay? It may make some noise as it's settling, but definitely do not get under a vehicle until you have secured it properly. Now this is a Daystar jack riser, I guess you'd call it. Some people just use hockey pucks, but this thing is nice because it actually sits pretty snug on this jack. It's the larger of the two sizes, depending on what jack you buy. And it's not going to fall off, and it has a nice little groove to not damage the vehicle. And now that I can use this Daystar, I can put it under the tow hook, which lines up perfectly. And it gives me an additional 5 inches on a jack that already gives me something like 22 inches of height. And so as you can see, we're going to get it up to 3 notches first, and we do the front, we do the back, until we get up to 6 notches all around. And again, I'm just showing you the jacking point on the back and where you put the Daystar to give you the maximum height. I wouldn't go above 6 notches on any jack, that's just me. At that point, if you really have to get your car that high, you should consider a different alternative like an actual lift. As you can see, these notches are securely in the valleys, of our US jack stands, which I think are the best jack stands available. If you're going to spend money on jacks, get a high quality one, make sure the car's level, and of course, shake all corners, make sure it is stable. Tire rotation and inspection. So I like to use impact guns, and I use the Ryobi impact gun. It's a 1/2 inch. And I use a Mechanic rolling creeper stool, and it's really nice. It has tons of storage for pretty much most of my tools, like if I'm working on brakes or whatever. It also has a holster for your impact gun, which is kind of nice. Definitely remember to remove your battery before you do that. But the casters on it are decent. It moves pretty freely, and for tall people with long legs, it's like the only one. Definitely use some latex gloves that are 8mm and get extra large size if you get these Infeed Touch. I have a 19mm Tecton, and I'm just gonna add this to the 1/2 inch impact gun here. You see where the bead matches up with the hole? Just sort of snaps into place. And then you're good to go. Make sure that the setting is on 3 loosen, okay? You'd never want to tighten on 3. And then here's the battery. You can check to see how much juice it has before you put it in. And don't ever add the battery until you are ready to use it, and take it out when you're done. Don't just leave it in the gun. It's a safety issue and just kind of wasteful. So as you can see, it is loosening. And so then we just sort of match up with our lug nut here, and you can kind of move it like that, like twist it to make sure it's nicely seated on that lug nut. And then you just take them off. And don't forget to save the lug nut. It doesn't matter what pattern you go in when you loosen, so I just go in a circle and remove all of them. But be careful, do not let the tire fall down when you loosen the last one, like that. So just be careful not to drop it, that would be bad. And of course, before you put your gun in the holster, remove the battery. So put your leg underneath the tire and lift while also holding with your hands, and bend your knees. You don't want to hurt your back. And then you're going to roll the tire to inspect to see if there's any damage, like nails or screws. And I do see some damage there. That needs to be plugged. It's a nail. So we're going to rotate this tire to the front right hand side of the car. We'll put them on later. Brake fluid flush. So we got to get the old brake fluid out of the master cylinder reservoir here, as well as the clutch reservoir here. We use the same brake fluid. It's a little confusing with terminology, but it's the same stuff you're getting out. Use a turkey baster, and this is really great because it's gentle on the master cylinder, and then a one-man bleeder is awesome too for DIY. So first thing, take that cap off. Keep it safe and clean, don't introduce any dirt, and take that turkey baster. And what you're going to do is basically take the old fluid out as much as you can, and you're going to put it at the bottom of the one-man bleeder. And we do that so that we can have a pressurized system of getting air out of our brake lines. So basically just keep going until you can't go anymore with the turkey baster, and make sure that you take these caps out when you're working so that you can get to the base of the master cylinder. Keep them clean and make sure you know where they are. Don't drop them on the ground. So as you can see, I'm getting a lot of dirty brake fluid out of there. And I'm just adding it to the bottom of the one-man bleeder. I'm also using blue shop towels to get the caps as clean as possible, get the old fluid off and any dirt. Introducing moisture or dirt to your system is bad news. Go ahead and add the cap back whenever you can. So I will have some links in the description for you, but I prefer Bosch. You can pretty much use whatever you want though. I also like to use funnels. It just makes life easier. Whenever you're done, add the caps back. So here we're going to take this little rubber piece off of the brake bleeder. And I'm going to use pliers because this one's particularly hard to get off. Usually you can just pull them off with your fingers. Then we're going to take the one-man bleeder like so, and we're going to pull one end of it off. There's a magnetic piece to the back of the bleeder where you can basically just put the whole one-man bleeder onto the strut. A lot easier for you to work all by yourself. And we're just going to make sure the line goes up into the air vertically. And then we're going to just loosen here enough to get the fluid to come out. And once you can see that the fluid is going up, you know that you've created a system where you're bleeding the air out of the brake line, which is what you want. And since we have a lot of fluid inside of the one-man bleeder, we know that the system is pressurized. 5 pumps. Do it nice, even. You can use a 10mm here tool to close the line while you pump 5 times and then open the line to get the fluid out. Basically, you close the line, pump, open the line, and then close the line again. And you repeat this process until the fluid comes out clean. And you do this to basically get as much air out of your system as possible. And I'm going through this whole process a lot faster, but that's generally what you do. And as you go, obviously you add more clean fluid. And notice that I am doing this on the wheel that's right next to the driver's side. I do that personally because I don't want to run old dirty fluid through my brake lines. I want to get as much of the dirty fluid out of the master cylinder as quickly as possible. And then I transition to the farthest wheel from the master cylinder. And we just put our cap back on, like so. Minimizing exposure. And we just keep going until the fluid comes out clean. Now you can dump the old fluid and put new fluid at the base to create the pressurized system. And what I'm doing here is just a simple test, and you can see, you can barely tell that there's any fluid on it. So that's how I know that it's clean. And then you just want to properly dispose of your fluid. So I typically will just put it inside one of these oil containers. I use a funnel. And then I will take it to AutoZone just to properly dispose of this fluid. You're repeating the same process, right? So, you know, you close it, you pump, you open, you close it, you pump, you open, you close it, you pump, you open until that fluid comes out clean. So I always start on the driver's side wheel to get all the dirty fluid out of the master cylinder quickly. Then I move to the wheel farthest from the master cylinder to get the dirty fluid out of the brake lines. And then I do the other 2 wheels. Here we're going to check another wheel, and it's the same process. Just make sure it comes out clean. Then you're going to put the rubber back on the bleeders. Make sure they're nice and tight. And here you want to make sure everything's clean in the master cylinder. You put all your caps back in. And you're done. Clutch fluid flush. So this is just like the brake fluid flush. We use enough fluid to get everything out so it comes out clean. Remove that top cap, clean it. And then you're going to find this rubber seal cap. So we're going to take a turkey baster and remove the old fluid and put it in the one-man bleeder. Go ahead and use the blue shop towel and clean the rubber seal cap as well as the top cap. And whenever you can, definitely keep these systems closed. You don't want the brake fluid in there to be exposed to the air, especially if you're in the process of adding new fluid. So whenever you're not actively pouring something in, put the caps back on and clean up as you go. So we're going to use enough Bosch to get the system clean. And again, I remove the top cap and then I remove that seal cap to add the fluid. And then in reverse order, put the caps back on because the fluid's hydroscopic, it'll absorb moisture and you don't want to introduce any dirt to the system. You notice here that I added too much fluid. That's okay, because you're going to be running a lot of fluid through the system, but ideally put the pressurized cap back on when you can. So we're going to get underneath the vehicle, and it's a little hard to find, but if you look up, you'll see that there is a bleeder with a rubber seal on it. So to begin, we remove that rubber seal, and then we're going to attach that one-man bleeder to the clutch bleeder, I should say. And you can use an 8mm to loosen there. And you notice how the line goes up so that the air sort of escapes the system. And again, what we're going to do is we're going to have the line closed, we pump 5 times, and then we open the line to bleed as much air out of the system as possible. Continually add more fluid to the clutch reservoir as you go. And put that rubber seal cap in. And then the top cap to really seal it in. And so here is the one-man bleeder. It's definitely filling up. And so as you can see here, I am tightening it. Then I'm going in and I'm pumping 5 times. And then I come out and I loosen it, and you will see the fluid shoot out because the system's pressurized. And you're going to keep going. You're just going to keep doing this over and over again until the fluid is coming out into your one-man bleeder bottle clear. All right, then we remove the one-man bleeder and we see just how much dirty fluid we got out. If you hold the line up, you can get some of that excess fluid down in there. And that's just a nice trick to not get messy. And don't forget to put your rubber seal back on. Garage lighting and torque rotated tires. So everybody should have garage lighting at this point. It's so cheap and easy. What we're going to do is we're going to put the tires on, and I always put them on by turning around and lifting with the back of my leg while I add a lug nut to the top and to the bottom to secure it. Once it's secure enough to walk away and remove my leg, I'll then get on my mechanic roller and I'll use an impact driver. Again, we're going to use the 19 millimeter. This is an impact socket. And we're going to put it on setting 2. It's roughly 80 foot-pounds. If you're not comfortable using this, you might have to tighten it while it's on the ground, which takes a lot longer. So I will use this on all 5 of the lug nuts and do it on all 4 tires. Then once it's on the ground, I'll tighten it by hand with the torque wrench. Next, we're going to lower the vehicle. Follow the steps at the beginning of the video that demonstrated jacking the vehicle up and using jack stands, but just go in reverse. Make sure that the engine is in gear with the emergency brake on, the wheels chocked. You don't want to skip any safety steps here. Then we're going to use a torque wrench with a 19 millimeter. Now we're going to tighten the lug nuts in a star pattern and make sure you do all 4 tires. Then we're going to use this nice Ryobi tool to inflate the tires to 32 psi. Step, I like to put on new caps. If you have these crummy plastic ones, it's not much money to upgrade to these chrome caps.